deplete over
So
time,
guys,
and
make
once
sure you're gonna play
depleted, that's when your
Roblox.
skill will go away. The way these mental
Brookhaven.
points are drained actually is you lose 10 every time your turbo twirly hits, whether you're mounted or not, and after 6 hits it'll go away, lasting for around 12 seconds if you just press it and let it passively bounce. Having Nightsoul's Blessing is a new Natlan character unique mechanic that allows Natlan characters to synergize with many things, like especially the new Natlan artifact sets, which are a big reason as to why Kachina can actually get much more value than you might otherwise think. This Turbo Twirly is considered a Geo construct, and Kachina can only have one out at a time. If you press your ability, it will just summon one that will stay there, constantly deal geo damage even from off field, whereas if you hold your skill or press your E again, Kachina can ride on it and use normal attacks to slam the ground. Also, I wanted to mention that regarding her uptime, your Turbo Twirly, if you just press and swap, will last for 6 bounces and will usually have around an 8 or so second cooldown when your skill expires if you are just passively using it. It's worth noting that the hero set has a solid buff duration of 20 seconds, so your uptime will still be good even if you're going to do another rotation without Kachina's skill, but also worth noting that Kachina's second constellation allows her to resummon her skill through her burst, which can help with uptime if needed. For Kachina's elemental burst, here she will deal a bigger hit of AoE geo damage, once again scaling on defense, and create a turbo drill field. This turbo drill field will increase the AoE of your turbo twirly, so of your skill, while also giving you a movement speed buff when you're riding it. This ability will also pull your turbo twirly next to you if it was far away, and the field created will last for 12 seconds on an 18-second cooldown with a 70 energy cost.
What?
You should mostly use whenever you have
What?
it,
Why?
just skill being the main part of her kit.
What?
Additionally,
What?
for Kachina's
Why?
passive,
Eh,
her first
kasi.
passive will give her burst
No,
twice,
that?
increased geo damage bonus for 12 seconds. After a debuff party
Sir,
member triggers a nice
would
soul
you like
burst,
to
which you'll
go
get
to the
passively
other
as
side
Kachina's
of
from
the
that
road?
land, so basically just more damage in your burst.
Come
Also
on,
keep in mind that to my understanding, the more Natlan characters you have in your team, the more often you can trigger Night Soul Burst, which you'll see from a visual cue on your screen, but that's not that important, it's just some geo damage bonus that you'll passively be getting. For Kachina's second passive, this one will increase the damage of your turbo twirly by 20% of Kachina's defense, effectively just giving it a bit more passive damage, scaling with your defense. Outside of just that, Kachina has some nice exploration passives. You can use her skill to kind of ride around on this drill, being especially effective inside of Natlan, but that's not really the purpose of this guide. Just know that she can be convenient for exploration. What you do need to keep in mind, however, is that Kachina's elemental skill will passively be dealing damage from off-field as long as you just press her skill. This means you can press her E, press her Q, skill and burst, and then swap out of her, not needing to spend a lot of field time on her. If you want to maximize her personal damage, yes, you can stay on her inside of your skill, bounce around, and spam your normals, but this will take a lot of field time, whereas if you just use your skill and swap out, it will act as a geo construct, constantly triggering the crystallized reaction and allowing you to trigger the new Natlan support set, which is really broken, and something that I'll explain more in the playstyle section coming up basically right now. Right before we get into that though, I want to mention that for Kachina's talent priority, there are really two ways you can go about it. Firstly, if you just want to run Kachina as a support on the new artifact set, a supportive weapon, and just buff your team without caring about her personal damage, because honestly, it's not anything crazy, then you can ignore leveling your talents, run her on very low investment, which is good, especially early game, or if you don't want to spend too many resources, and get a solid amount of buffs, as we'll cover in the next section, choosing to ignore your talent levels. On the contrary, if you want to maximize her damage, get the most out of Kachina, maybe run her in a Geo team, or just start dealing passive damage from her, then you should definitely level her skill and then her burst, and you can ignore her normal attacks. Additionally, for her damage, it can be important to level her up, because she's a character who's defense scaling, so levels actually will contribute quite a bit to her damage. Additionally, leveling her up will increase the strength of her crystallized shields, which can particularly be nice if you aren't running another form of sustain and rely on the shields to stay alive, even though they're not the strongest. Now, with her abilities out of the way, why is Kachina a valuable support, and what does she offer you? Well, obviously, as we saw, she can do some geo damage, but that clearly isn't why she can be a universal support. The reason for this is because she's a Natlan character with a Night Soul Blessing aligned attack. Because of this, she can run the new artifact set, the hero set, effectively an instance of basically artifact power creep, just an insane support set that gives you a ton of value. While Kachina's personal damage is nothing amazing, it can be fine in geo teams with buffs and all of that, which I'll cover in this video, and she's also a nice character for exploration. What she really can do is be a free-to-play option that gives you access to the new hero set, on top of also synergizing well with some existing geo characters. What this set does, if you don't know, Geo is give you not just energy for your Kachina, but especially up to 40% elemental damage bonus to any elements involved in a reaction that the equipping character will trigger, lasting for 20 seconds, which is a great duration, and also being triggerable from off field. Additionally, something that's not mentioned here but that I really want to point out is that this can work for multiple elements, multiple reactions at the same time. For example, if you were to trigger a Hydro Crystallize through your skill and also a Pyro Crystallize back to back, you will gain firstly 40% Geo and Hydro damage from the first Crystallize, and then also another 40% Pyro damage bonus on top of that from the second Crystallize, allowing you to buff multiple characters at the same time. The damage bonuses you gain will be to every party member, meaning that if you're running, again, for example, Pyro, Hydro, and Geo in a team, well, all three will be buffed. Contrary, the set Archaic Petra actually can only give you one buff at the same time. In fact, let's say you trigger a Pyro Crystallize and you pick it up on your Geo character, not only will you only buff Pyro and not Geo, but also if right afterwards you pick up a Hydro Crystal created from a Hydro Crystallize reaction, you will lose the 40% power damage bonus you had, instead gaining 40% Hydro damage bonus and not having your multiple damage bonus buffs coexist. With the hero set, for example, you can get 40% Geo damage, Power damage, and Hydro damage all out at the same time, whereas with Petra, you would only get one element being buffed at the same time of the last crystal that you pick up, while also not buffing Geo, which is a big benefit of the hero set and another reason why it's so good. It's also a really nice and easy way to buff Geo, which otherwise is very difficult. Geo can benefit from other support sets like the Verdescent Venerer and has to rely on basically just Geo units buffing Geo units, whereas this set provides you with a very easy 40% Geo damage bonus, provided you have a Natlan character who can run this set, and Kachina is no exception. This naturally will make her a solid option for someone like Malta or another Geo DPS, or just work as a basically mini budget support option in any elemental reaction-based team where you could trigger a crystallize of either Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo, or ideally multiple, and buff those elements very effortlessly from off field and with a good duration. And so because of this, while Kachina's kit is nothing special, it's nothing amazing, her personal damage can be okay, gets better with Constellation and with investment, but isn't insane, she really can still be a valuable free-to-play support option, at least until better options are released. Future Natlan characters may be 5 stars, although even then, Kachina being free-to-play and given for free is definitely an upside and makes her a very accessible and usable support. Kachina can also run a supportive weapon like a Favonius Lance, and as mentioned, while you can do okay damage with investment, she also is a character who can work at incredibly low investment. In my Moalani guide, for example, I included a level 1 Kachina in my Moalani team showcase just because I was getting a full buff from my artifact set through my Kachina just pressing the skill and swapping out, not doing damage, not caring about literally anything else, just buffing my team without any investment at all. Additionally, you can also get crystallized shields, which aren't the strongest but are okay, and can help you be comfier, gain resistance interruption by being protected from a shield, and maybe not need as strong of a healer or even a healer at all. For those reasons, while I don't think Kachina is meta by any means, I think the fact that this new support set is so broken makes any Natlan support already a solid choice, with Kachina being no exception. She's a free-to-play option. Obviously, I expect future Natlan characters with better kits that can also run the set to be more popular, but as a free-to-play option, and especially for now, Kachina can work great in many teams, especially with other Geo characters, where she could be, for example, arguably the best free-to-play Geo option for someone like Navia, where you may want to run another Geo character who can even buff your Geo damage, while also being a flexible support in any elemental-based team as a viable but not game-breaking or broken option. The set's broken, Kachina isn't, but she can wield the set, which already makes her a low-investment, viable character. Obviously, I don't want to oversell her, she's not a must-build, but a nice, low-investment, free-to-play option. Alright, now with that out of the way, regarding how you want to build your Kachina, it is extremely straightforward. Set-wise, you want to make sure you're running the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City set for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Energy, as well as up to 40% elemental damage bonus to multiple different elements, Geo plus whatever others you're crystallizing with, being either Hydro, Pyro, Electro, Cryo, or multiple of them at the same time, makes it the best set by far, and definitely the option you should go for. It's effectively the reason you're playing Kachina in the first place. If for whatever reason you don't have the set farmed, while other supportive sets can be viable, because they pale in comparison to the hero set, what you can actually do is run a very low investment build, artifacts that are really not perfect or even not leveled at all, and still get the set buff, and then worry about your stats later. Now, for the exact stats you're looking for on Kachina, well, as mentioned, it matters more or less. Obviously, at high investment, you can really max maximize her damage by focusing on the stats that increase her damage, so looking for defense percent, as she's a defense scaler, crit rate and crit damage to help her deal way more damage through her crits, and a bit of energy recharge here and there to help you burst more often. Typically though, energy recharge wise, it doesn't matter as much. You can burst whenever you have it, typically every other rotation, as while her burst is nice, it's not pivotal, and you also usually won't need much ER at all to burst every other rotation in her optimal teams, where you're pairing her oftentimes with at least one or multiple other Geo characters, and are also potentially running a weapon like the Favonius Lance, which we'll cover in the next section, that already gives you a lot of energy. With that in mind though, this is only for a more high investment Kachina, a Kachina where you're trying to do damage with her, maybe in a Geo team, where again, you won't need as much energy recharge because you have other Geo characters that can give you energy, and you can also just burst every other rotation. And in those teams, you can focus on stacking crit rate, crit damage, and defense percent, deal solid damage through your skill and your burst on top of buffing your team. With that in mind though, I feel like for the majority of players, the exact stats you're looking for on Kachina don't matter as much. You're not going to be going super high investment, generally speaking, unless you're building her for personal damage. She gets a lot of supportive value just from the set effect, even if your stats are almost non-existent. You really don't need that much to already make her a baseline solid support just through the artifact set. And if you want to go further and invest in her damage, that's when you'll look for defense, crit rate, crit damage, and maybe a bit of ER. With that in mind, as far as the low investment build goes, I'd say to look for some crit rate to help you trigger your Favonius Lance if you choose to run this weapon, and then either go for defense percent and crit for personal damage, ER if you want to burst a bit more often, or even a more niche and less recommended build, but a low investment choice, can be to go for Elemental Mastery to maximize your crystallized shields. If you are running a team maybe without a healer, you want to be a bit comfier and don't care about your Kachina's personal damage. Now obviously, this seems like a meme build. It's not what I'm particularly recommending. I'm not saying go and stack EM, but for a low investment option, if you really don't care about your Kachina's damage and just want a buffer and someone who can give you a shield and allow you to not run a healer in your team, then genuinely running full EM and leveling up your Kachina all the way can help give you a relatively okay crystallized shield that can prevent you from taking too much damage. With that in mind, you can build Kachina however you like, either very low investment with almost no stats, a higher investment damage focused build, or an EM crystallized one, should just be based on what you need and what you want. Don't forget crit rate for Favonius Lance, and that's basically all you need to know. So if you want to maximize your damage, you'll be going for defense on your stance, Geo damage on your goblet, and crit on your circlet. If you're going for a more low investment support build, then the stats you're looking for don't matter as much. Still looking for the same stats, but obviously you don't care about your Kachina's damage as much, so the main thing I'd say to look for is crit rate on your circuit to reliably trigger your Favonius Lance's procs if you choose to run that weapon. Additionally, if you want to run her low investment and stronger crystallized shields, then you can go for Elemental Mastery on every piece. The standard build though will still be to go for defense, Geo, and crit with varying levels of investment depending on what you're looking for. Now next up for the weapons you want Kachina, once again, it will be very straightforward. First of all, the Favonius Lance is the go-to supportive weapon for any character who just wants to help their team out by giving everyone in your party energy, or for a crit with the odd CR refinement. This weapon will also give you some energy recharge, which is nice to burst more often, and will act as a solid way to reduce your other characters' ER needs and allow them to build more damage. If you're running Favonius, be sure to run a bit crit rate on your Kachina to be able to proc its effect consistently when you are on field. The Favonius Lance is therefore the main go-to option I recommend, generally speaking, for Kachina. Outside of that, you can also run the new Land Craftable free-to-play weapon that is a defense percent stat stick, a solid free-to-play choice that can help you increase its personal damage by giving you a lot of defense. Outside of that, generic crit stat sticks Kachina can give things like deathmatch or basically any 5-star full arm that has crit, with basically any weapon that gives you solid stats being viable. But again, the Favonius Lance should be your go-to support option, and then the new free-to-play craftable is a great defense percent stat stick if you want a bit more damage alongside any other crit option, all being pretty decent, with Favonius being your supportive choice. Moving on for Kachina's constellations, this will primarily give her some quality of life benefits and increase her damage by quite a bit. They're not too buff focused, except a little bit with her deep. But that said, let's actually talk about each constellation one by one. Firstly, Kachina's first constellation will give her more energy and allow her to absorb nearby elemental shards created by Crystallize when she mounts or dismounts her skill. This is a nice way to pick up your crystallized shields without having to run towards them, and when a crystallized shard is picked up by a party member, Kachina will gain 3 energy up to once every 5 seconds. Kachina's second constellation, this will make her burst, grant her 20 Night Soul points, and also allow her to re-summon her skill and her Night Soul blessing if none is on the field when she bursts. I do want to add for this constellation though that being able to resummon your skill through your burst can help with your uptime and allow you to use your burst kind of like Fischl's to resummon Oz, but in this case to resummon your turbo quickly, allowing you to have a better uptime, passively triggering Crystallize in your supportive set. Now with that in mind, as I mentioned earlier, the hero set does buff you for a long time, 20 seconds, so you should still have good uptime on this set, even if your dual is not always out on the field, but it still helps to have it out more often, so C2 is definitely nice. Next up for C3 and 5 increase power.
Sa other side.
Will give more defense
Sa
to
other
the
side, dapat mataas ang bahay mo.
whenever
Dapat high ang
more
bahay
energy is
mo.
inside of it. It's mostly just nice
Mm-mm.
for defense scaling characters. Lastly, for Kachina's C6, this will give her a pretty decent 200% defense scaling hit of AoE geo damage whenever your active character's shield is destroyed or replaced for any reason. You can do this up to once every 5 seconds, and it'll just give her, once again, a bit more AoE geo damage as you get new shields, mainly through Crystallize. Overall, her constellations are nice. You get more skill up time and just more damage. You can also get more defense for your active character. Again, if you're running her with a defense scaling geo unit, for example, this can be pretty nice. More energy and auto picking up Crystallize. All pretty convenient, but nothing too insane or amazing. Alright, next up for Kachina's teams. While this part is important, it's also incredibly straightforward.
Put it my blood. Stop.
We saw Kachina's main use case is being a geo support who can also use
You can go to your room now. I can sleep.
For two main
My room.
two types of teams
Okay.
where you can
Alright.
fit Kachina. The first one will be alongside another.
It's not your room. You can sleep there.
Why?
You're gonna sleep upstairs because that's safer.
Ito or other geo-focused teams where Kachina can be a solid support option. What makes her good here is obviously the hero set, giving 40% geo damage bonus to your carry like Nadia, and also 40% electro damage bonus for someone like
Mabilis mo
Fischl
lang,
who
ganun.
can snapshot it and do a lot of
What's
damage.
my here?
In the Nadia team in particular,
Mama.
you oftentimes want to run her with another geo character, a geo
Mabilis mo
battery,
lang,
and
ganun.
off-field support, and while there are some solid 5-star options like Shiori, Zhongli, or Albedo, there's not really the best free-to-play options. Like, yeah, you could use the geo main character, but Kachina actually becomes a solid option here. In my opinion, the best free-to-play option is a solid support for the amount of buffs you're giving your team. Notably, super damage
Kailan
bonus
ba?
is really valuable. The
Kailan
geo
ba?
resonance, and also the huge buffs to other party members as well. If, for example, you want a strong off-field damage support like Fischl,
Napay.
like that. For those reasons,
Hapunan.
Kachina works really well in Navia teams or alongside Geo carries in general. And she also can deal a decent amount of damage in a Geo team, benefiting from defense offers like Goro and any other buffs you may be running, while also providing your team with that Geo damage bonus through her artifact set. And so one of her main use cases will be alongside a Geo carry, Navia being my favorite, and the other one will be basically alongside any elemental DPS, alongside anyone who can trigger crystallize with Geo. This will be a Hydro carry, Pyro carry, Electro carry, or Cryo carry, provided you have a flexible option in the team. While some team archetypes, like for example Freeze, won't want to run a Geo character there, a lot of carries have a flexible support slot where you can just put a Kachina in. For example, in my Moalani showcase in my last video, I used a level 1 Kachina on Hero set just to give my Moalani power damage to my Shangling occasionally. Kachina can be read with basically any elemental carry, whether it be flex slot, so I'm not going to name all of them. Just know that if you're building a team around a character, have a flexible slot available, and don't have a better option to run, then running the hero set on Kachina can be viable as long as you make sure you use her skill and trigger crystallize of whatever elements you're trying to buff. It really is that simple. There's so much you can do, and all of this revolves around the fact that the artifact set is so good, and there aren't really that many good users of this set out right now, and while I suspect there'll be a ton in the future who will probably outshine Kachina, she's still a 4-star free-to-play option that you can use in those various teams, with my favorites being elemental DPSs that are lacking supports, or especially Navia, free-to-play second Geo slot. So yeah, overall, Kachina's a character who I've been enjoying as a very low investment support option, and someone who's also fun to explore with, although that's a bit less relevant. Wait, since she's a new character, be sure to check the pinned comment in case anything changes. Thanks so much for watching, let me know what you want to see next, and I'll catch
Has to go. It to go. It has go. No, bye bye. Then you did. Ik. No, ik. Go. Hmm. Now on time. Walang sisingit na pagkain. With fun. Why now?
So, I wasn't actually gonna pull for Bolani, but yeah, I'm literally at 4 pity.
Guys.
I'll give you 110 pull for.
But,
Then
but.
if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
No. So, but,
And I can't really ignore a sign like that, so I guess I'm building them. Well, usually at this point I pre-pump pretty much everything I need from domains,
Okay.
but seeing as the line came out literally yesterday, I guess I get a bet. I get a bet. I bought a brand of Jingles. I better get going. So I have pretty much none of the materials that I need to ascend, which works out well since now we can do the story quest thingy, and it gives us a bunch of materials to get her up a few levels. Yeah, I'll just, I guess I'll get to them. Oh, oh, that was quick. It totally didn't take like 3 hours. I don't know, but that's out of the way. Gives me a little bit to get her level at least. Boink, 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 and boom.
Okay guys, thank you so much for the video. The video. Should I share? Bye.
But.